Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. We are going to be talking about this is my own theory. You do a lot of research with what I do, a lot of watching videos, a lot of going learning about stuff, just random things, the unexpected education you get from hosting a podcast. And now that I know about sigils and I know about crop circles, I'm starting to have this theory form in my head. It's pretty well formed. But when I look at crop circles and then I learn about sigils and what those are, and then I remember that there is an ongoing conversation about UFOs being demonic, having a lot of similarities to demons, then I start to go, maybe there's a connection there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play a Joe Rogan clip where he's talking about crop circles with AJ from the Y-Files. When I first heard this clip, I didn't think much of it, but then I did an interview with a witch, and then I learned about sigils from him, and then I did more research for my other episodes, and now all of a sudden this whole thing's just clicked. So I'm going to play that clip of them talking. Then we're going to go through what crop circles are. I know a lot of you know, but let's still go through it from an expert. So that's going to be cool. And then we're going to go through what sigils are. And then we're going to touch on the demonic aspect of UFO. So this is a tinfoil Speedo episode. Your tinfoil Speedo must be on and, drawstrings. Double knot on the drawstrings for the tinfoil Speedos. I mean, high and tight right now. Okay, guys? But let's jump into this clip first, and then we'll jump into the rest.
We're left with is some truth. And not all stories can be fully debunked. And I've had my mind flipped a couple of times. Crop circles, hollow moons, and really crazy have flipped me around.
Crop circles is a weird one.
So weird.
It's a weird one because when I first saw them, I'm like, what is that? And then I saw that these guys were doing them with boards and string. I was like, oh, it's just people being silly. And then I watched a whole documentary about how the energy that bent these things over caused these nodes to explode as if they'd been cooked in a microwave.
Correct.
I'm like, what? And then you find out that the actual stalks are woven together.
Correct.
It's not that they're pressed down, they're woven together. And that these are complex geometric designs that would have taken people weeks to map out. And there's no footprints leading up to it. There's no roads, no machinery, no evidence of any use of any kind of machinery. And these things appear like that. Like people have flown over an area and then flown back an hour or two later, and there's immense football field size, perfect geometry that no one can explain how it was created.
Correct. So the nodes in the stalks, a node is like a knuckle on your fingers. So those are there for phototropism, to bend toward light. So what you're talking about is these things are bent over. They're bent over at right angles. It can only be done with high energy. But also around these crop circles, they're finding microscopic metallic spheroids in around the circles. And that's not a conspiracy theory. They're finding them. And there are these magnetic fields around the circles. And you can see videos online of people going into these crop circles and their hands start to get red. Things are happening to them. So I went into crop circles thinking it was all guys with boards. Mm-hmm. But then when you watch people with boards making a crop circle, it's a mess. They can't do this. And you cannot bend the nodes of reeds and weave them together in a perfect... You can't do it. So that was, as I'm doing the research, I'm like, all right, 99% of them are fake, but there's this 1% that I cannot explain.
The famous video where you see the orbs circling around the field in England and then the crop circle slowly starts to emerge, has that been debunked?
Semi. It's controversial because the guy released that video, I don't know his name offhand, allegedly went to a visual effects house.
Oh, boy.
And released it. But they somehow put that thing together in a matter of hours, which is suspicious. So in my episode on it, I said, all right, here's what the skeptics say. But, in the 1990s, to do that kind of VFX work, because it looks real, I don't know. To me, I'm on the fence about it.
It's very convenient that they got the footage.
It is.
It
is. Operation Blackbird was a famous operation in 1990 to try and capture the footage live. by a great researcher named Colin Andrews. And
Oh, he's the guy that does the books on crop circles, right?
yes,
Yeah, he's all in.
he's all in, and he got a lot of support for Blackbird. And not only did nothing happen, he was totally embarrassed by it. And it was all like streaming live, and a lot of people were involved. He's embarrassed. We find out later that while they're like waiting for the circles to happen, just a few miles away, there's a top secret military operation doing whatever they're doing. He doesn't know why. And then he gets a knock on the door from someone, Men in Black, whoever it is, that first offers him money to stop his work, then threatens him with whatever, threatens his family. And he doesn't know who this guy is. They go back and look at the tapes, and he sees the guy in the background of like one of the TV crews. So the theory is some type of intelligence was embedded into Blackbird, made to discredit him, and that was kind of the end of Colin Andrews, because he was a legit researcher at that point. Now he's fringe, now he's pseudoscience. But I get into that in the episode. That was something I discovered that I never knew, that there was intelligence involved. I didn't know that there was a military op, which is confirmed. It's wild.
So do you think they discredited him on purpose?
Yes.
Interesting. To make the crop circle thing look foolish. But like, what is the crop circle thing? Like, what is out of the believers, what is the best theory?
The believers is that it's a way to message craft, or it's a landing site, or it's some type of communication.
But why would they do it in wheat fields?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. If you have the technology, just,
Yeah.
pick up the phone. There's better ways than just mowing wheat down. But I don't understand.
Do you know the one about the Mandelbrot set?
I've seen it.
Yeah. I think that one is really weird because I think it coincides with the fractal creation of the Mandelbrot set by these people that are into this kind of geometry and fractals. They're like, someone made the Mandelbrot set, which is essentially an infinite fractal of like spectacular design.
And this is before Lorenz and the Lorenz attractor. I think it's before that, isn't it?
I don't know.
Before it was mainstream.
Yeah, before it was mainstream,
Right.
yes. And then when this thing appears and people are like, well, what is this design? And then they connect it to this Mandelbrot set, which is, someone would have to have some very esoteric information to be.
And it's Mandelbrot set using Fibonacci numbers.
Yes.
And the phi, the golden ratio.
And it's accurate.
It's accurate down to inches.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Well, maybe you can, but like how and how long would it take and how much planning and how many people and what would you use? Like what is the technology they would use to bend those things over that way and weave them? It's very weird stuff.
It's weird.
Because it's these, the way these fractals work, it's this ratio in the geometry is like there's specific sizes. This one is half the size of that one, which is half the size of that one, and it goes on and on forever. And when you see it all, see if you can find the Mandelbrot set.
It's maybe the most spectacular crop circle.
It's weird. It's really weird because it's fucking enormous. Mm-hmm. And it seems so stupid. Wow, there's a whole bunch of them. The Mandelbrot set is the one with the look like a heart. About that one right there. Yeah, that's it. That's the Mandelbrot set.
Yep, and there's some other fractals there as well.
I was looking at an article that says these two guys took on the challenge and did it for a TV show on the BBC.
They did. If you watch them do it, it's clumsy AF.
Yeah, it doesn't look as good. Like,
I was trying to find it.
'Cause
I know they always say that these guys did it,
that's
but
the
like,
one.
yeah.
You can't really see it there, but those flattened reeds, they're woven together.
Well, some of the weirder ones, go back to other crop circles. You had some other images before that. There's some other ones, those spirals.
Right.
Like that one right there. Yeah. That is wild.
That's wild.
Like this is multiple football fields long and wide. So how? Make that one a little bigger, please.
And one of these, I don't know if it's that one in particular, showed up right next to Stonehenge. Like a tennis ball throw away.
Like that is crazy. To not, first of all, if you're on the ground, all right, just the measurements alone to make each one the equal distance between circles, in the whatever 6 different blades that you have that stem from the center, they're all the same distance, they're all the same size.
The small circles are the ones that are most interesting, because how hard is that to do?
Right. And they're uniform. And it's like, what is that? Like, what the fuck is that? And if that is a hoax, it's so bizarre that it's only these 2 goofballs that were making really shitty ones with boards and strings. And yet there's hundreds, if not thousands, of these like really complex ones.
Yeah,
that
those
exist.
those are the guys that are on. You can see them doing it live,
Yeah,
and
but those guys, there's no way they had enough time to do all these things.
and it looked terrible. Look, he's just trampling it.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can certainly make crop circles with a string and a board. You certainly can make crop circles. But it always gets connected, like believing in aliens and everything else. But it's not, no one's even saying aliens. Like, it could be some sort of energy from something that we possess, something that humans possess, that they somehow or another aim at these areas. Like, what is that one above it? Go that one right there above, like right there. What the f is that thing? Look at that.
They are in the same count. 80% of them come from the same county in England.
Which is also weird.
Now, people will correct me in the comments, but I believe that middle piece of geometry is a hypercube, isn't it? Isn't that a four-dimensional cube?
I don't know.
A tesseract?
It does look like it, but
Like, what the how long would that take? That seems like that would take.
That's actually a Merkaba for those people who don't know. If you look up a Merkaba, it looks like this. It looks like the Star of David, but like a 3D representation of it. And it's said to be something that you would be able to activate with your pineal gland. And that would be that would give you the ability to travel interdimensionally. Because there is some people who say that we are meant to travel interdimensionally, which would make a lot of sense because it seems like we're dealing with a lot of interdimensional type stuff. So just saying.
Take a long time to do.
Stonehenge is under constant surveillance and circles show up overnight.
Very weird stuff.
There's an interesting
I
conspiracy
mean, what the f, dude?
to crop circles that we can get into later.
Wiltshire has the most crop circles in England.
Yes.
And it's mostly in England, too, which is also weird.
And mostly in Wiltshire.
Man, like, is there some sort of a theory by the kooks?
Ley lines.
Ley lines.
That they're happening on these segments of energy that intersect.
What is that black and white one, Jamie? Click on that one.
it's just a
No.
sorry.
The one, that one. What the f is that? Wow.
Wow, on a
That's
mountain.
Crazy.
that could be in sand. I think 'cause those look like sand dunes.
Is that what that is?
Circle 16.
That's crazy.
I've never seen that one. It's wild.
I mean, just the amount of time that it would take to do these things. So, ley lines. So this is the theory?
That's the theory. Have you heard about ley lines?
Kind of.
It's this alleged grid of energy that circles the Earth, and almost like how magnetic fields work. And these energy lines have intersection points, and on these intersection points are things like Stonehenge, Giza.
Whoa.
It's in snow on a mountain in France.
Wow! Where are the tracks in?
What?
Okay,
what the f is that?
So this
No
is
footprints, no tracks.
Footprints right here.
yeah, but that
Where?
could be
That could be the people that discovered it.
Right.
though.
Oh, this is the guy that did it, though.
Oh,
They're
the guy-
not-
oh,
it's an
guy-
artist
an
that
eye-
did this.
the
This
guy
isn't,
actually
these aren't
did
crop
it.
circles. This is an artist doing it.
Oh,
That's
I
kind of
see.
what I was trying to say.
Fucking incredible. An artist did that?
Yeah, it has the guy's name on that first picture we had here.
Amazing.
Simon Beck.
So the artist angle is a conspiracy angle. There's a man named John Lundberg who was part of a group called CircleMakers.org, which is an art project and also a sociology experiment. He would make fake crop circles to see how people would react. Years later, Lundberg and some associates created a documentary called Mirage Men, which is an excellent documentary. And
So check it out. Check it out. I let that run a little long just because I wanted to see what Jamie was pulling up there. But yeah, very interesting conversation. They brought up a few things that kind of are intersecting with what I've been thinking. Let's just jump right into it. Now, again, they showed us what crop circles were pretty well. You know, I'll still show you guys some real ones that are just wild. And it does happen a lot in this place. Wiltshire, I believe they said. It does happen. That's huge. Just so you understand. That's gigantic. That's very, very gigantic. It makes no sense. It makes no sense when you say it's humans. I just don't buy it. Like, look at that. And then they crossed into there, and then as you can see, just like he said before, you can tell it's very woven. It's just wild, wild stuff. But I don't want to just sit around and look at crop circles for too long just because, they showed quite a bit of them. Now, this is, where is it? Wiltshire. So a lot of them are in Wiltshire. Very hot. Now, Joe Rogan was asking, why would these UFOs do it over farms? Why would they do it in the areas that they do it in? Apparently, some people speculate that there are massive amounts of crystal underneath these fields. Just like if you made it into a mine, you would just strike it rich with crystal. That's what they're speculating. Now, I don't know if that's true, but ley lines also make sense, which what AJ was talking about. Ley lines are a very interesting thing. If you look up a bunch of ley lines, they are just everywhere, but they are at some very wonder of the world type spots. Like he mentioned Giza, Stonehenge. They're just they're all over these places. There's actually some Hollywood. There's actually some that intersect in Hollywood, which is very interesting because you think, oh, well, that's just nothing. But it's like, is it? Because it seems like there's a massive amount of energy there, whether it's dark energy or whatever. But, whoever knows about Hollywood is what witches would use for their wands, that type of thing, which is why it's called Hollywood. So somebody had some kind of knowledge and chose that place and chose to call it Hollywood, and all of these weird things happen in that place now. But we're getting away from crop circles here. I could go on about the debauchery of those people for hours. Let's jump into this. This guy is talking about crop circles. Really cool guy, Andy Thomas. Let's get into it.
Electronics often go wrong in crop circles. Some people will describe a strange tingling, headaches, or feeling rather ill. My name is Andy Thomas, and I'm a researcher of mysteries and the paranormal and crop circles. I began investigating crop circles in 1991. Something really hit me, and it just touched me inside, and I thought, I need to know more about this. 27 years on, I'm still going. The question of the origins of crop circles has never yet been nailed. Many think, there's an intelligence behind them. They think they're made by aliens or extra-dimensionals. I mean, it's a big universe. There must be other life out there. Whether it's coming here, of course, is one of the great debates. It may well be that we are being visited by other intelligences, and maybe they feel like leaving some graffiti in the fields. Or maybe it's more than that they're trying to very gently make people aware of them in a way that doesn't create...
Sorry, I was muted. That's not fake. That's real. That is a real crop circle. What are we talking about here?
Fear. It has been argued the slow acclimatization process of little patterns built up a little bit more and a bit more every year is a way of getting us used to the idea of otherness. But there are many
of otherness. Now there's another clip. I don't want to play the whole clip, but here's another clip of him talking about this whole thing. Where he starts talking about crop circles and some other weirdness that he's into. I definitely got to get this guy on the podcast. I like this guy's vibe.
Circles tend to appear in any given country, as you would imagine, in the summer months. Although sometimes you do get them out of season in winter crops, or even occasionally, laid into snow and ice. Is that the same thing? We're not sure. But the ones that appear in the fields, of course, you're going to get when the fields are up. If you consider that it might be an intelligent force behind it, well, it's going to use the canvas which is going to work best for it. Some crop circles have had direct information in them. There was one very famous one in 2002 that looked like the classic alien holding a disc of a binary code. Well, that can generate text on a computer. And the message was, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. And then it went on to warn about they opposed deception and that the conduit was closing. So many people thought that was very portentous. I think you could meet aliens through various ways, actually. Probably standing around in a field isn't necessarily the best way to see one. I think going to UFO spots where people say they see them a lot, you're more likely to perhaps be taken up on board one of the ships. Whether that's an experience you want is another matter, as some people have come back with all kinds of interesting tales.
It's very, very interesting that he said one of the messages was them holding a disc and then saying, beware gifts and broken promises, I believe he said. Because then it makes me think, because this was 6 years ago, this video. And now what's at the forefront of technology, and we're all speculating that it's going to be something great, it's going to be something terrible. Some people seem like they're ready to worship it. Some people seem like they're ready to burn it all down, kind of thing. And that's AI, right? Very interesting. Like it makes you wonder, especially as we go on with this episode, if somebody was trying to attract something or call something in or gain some kind of knowledge, information, and they got that warning, didn't heed the warning and just kept pushing forward. Seems like what the people who are running AI right now would do, running the industry of AI. I mean, let's keep going. Does the government know the truth? I got another clip here. Oh, and it's actually that. Okay, so let's just keep going.
And with crop circles and UFOs, it is absolutely clear that they are not telling the truth. The intense debunking that we've seen of the crop circles over the years, and the flat refusal of the media especially to even acknowledge them much in the last few years, in a way says that there's something they're afraid of. And I think it's very clear that the authorities know more than they are letting on to us, because they must keep tabs on any strange phenomena. It would be in their interest to, we would almost hope they would, because they're meant to be protecting us, one hopes. We were doing experiments in the mid-1990s trying to see, could the power of the mind in any way have something to do with it? And we'd done an experiment where we'd drawn a crop circle, sort of basically fairly simple, 6 circular elements in a line, and we had performed some kind of meditation, if you want to call it that, up on a hillside, and that exact shape appeared as a crop circle that very night. We didn't make it, we had nothing to do with it, and it was perfect. It was a beautiful formation. That really, I think, because of the connection we felt with that, whatever was going on, that's probably my favorite crop circle of all time.
That is wild. So he actually, what he just explained there, he said some kind of meditation. So that's basically a ritual. That's basically you were summoning something, then you all got this image in your head, and then that image came to be. That is asking the Ouija board to give you a sign. That's like, you know what I mean? That's that type of stuff, which is wild. You know, it's quite like the people of CE5, who Stephen Greer, Jake Barber, people of that nature, they actually sit and try to summon UFOs with their minds. They claim I guess not all of them have psychic abilities, or they're just able to use their minds. Some are psychic, some aren't, but they try to do that type of thing. And now he's explaining that he tried to do that type of thing in regards to crop circles. Very interesting. I didn't even know we were going to go that direction that soon. Now, you've heard enough about crop circles and the weirdness around that. Now we're going to jump into what sigils are, because I want you guys to understand that as I talk about all this stuff.
Today, we will explore sigils, one of the most enigmatic and powerful tools in occultism. Prepare to discover how a simple drawing can open portals to your subconscious and manifest the reality you desire. Sigils are more than just intriguing drawings or symbols. They are encoded expressions of human intentions, a language created to communicate with the subconscious and the hidden forces of the universe. The word sigil comes from the Latin sigillum, meaning seal or mark, referring to the idea of something that guards or protects a secret. In the context of occultism, sigils are tools used to condense a desire or intention into a symbolic form that transcends the limitations of words. Their origin dates back to ancient magical practices, such as the seals used by magicians and alchemists in medieval grimoires to invoke specific spirits or energies.
So just hear that. Invoke certain spirits, entities, desires, taking it beyond the language, right? Things like that. Like that's what a sigil is, and it's this little symbol. You know, when I was talking to the witch, when I did an interview with the witch, I call him that fondly. That is, I'm not calling him names. That's what he likes to be called. And you know, when I had that conversation, he was talking about sigils. He was talking about what he thought it was, and he comes at it from a perspective of chaos. I believe it's chaos magic, but there's other ways that people look at sigils, and it does have something to do with evoking certain spirits, which I find very interesting. Let's keep going a little bit, then we're going to move on.
However, it was with the occultist Austin Osman Spare in the early 20th century that sigils gained a new, more accessible, and psychological approach. Spare believed that the power of sigils lay in their ability to bypass the conscious mind, planting the seed of intention directly into the unconscious. He stated, "The sigil is the art of hiding a desire in a symbol, where it can be forgotten by the conscious mind and remembered by the unconscious." Unlike other forms of magic,
Remembered by the unconscious. Remember. See, that's important as we go on in the episode. Remembered in the unconscious, right? That's a very interesting thing as well. I'm just gonna play a little bit more of this, and then we're gonna move on to the next one.
sigils do not rely on elaborate rituals or complex tools. Their strength lies in simplicity and the ability to merge intention with symbolism. When creating a sigil, you are essentially building a symbolic map that guides your mind and energy toward achieving a goal.
Now, with that, could you possibly guide someone else's mind towards a certain goal? Put something in their subconscious that they are going to remember just by them seeing them. Now take that away from sigils, or even just combined what you know about crop circles now, what you know about sigils. Could the crop circles be that? Could somebody be having that intention? Could something be having that intention? They've already talked about how hard it is for people to do that type of thing. So maybe it's not people that are doing it, or people are using something other than boards and strings in order to do this type of thing. Maybe they are using some kind of magic. And believe you me, magic is very real. Now, how do sigils work? I want to play that one. I want to go to that, but let's play this quickly.
Magic is based on the idea that symbols, specifically sigils, can turn desires and intentions into reality. These sigils act as channels, transforming abstract thoughts into tangible outcomes. The process starts by forming a clear intention, which is then crafted into a unique, meaningful symbol. Sigils direct the practitioner's energy toward their intentions. When activated, through actions like meditating on the sigil, burning, or burying it, sigils are believed to send a powerful message to the universe or the subconscious mind.
To the universe or the subconscious mind. Let's move on to this part. Now, this is Gotic sigils. Now, this is where my mind starts to kind of combine the crop circles and the sigils. This is where I start to combine it here, because this, you know, talking about UFOs and them being demonic, this is where that fits in. Now, listen to what this is. And honestly, they're going to show. I would just listen. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. Guys. Okay? Look at me. You know. I'm just saying. I don't know how you feel about it. You want to just look at them. You don't care. Like, all good, but I'm not looking at them. I'm just saying. All right, let's go.
Sigils. Some of the most powerful and well-known sigils in the occult world come from the Ars Goetia of the Lesser Key of Solomon. This popular grimoire details 72 symbols, known as the Goetic sigils. These are associated with the 72 demons listed in the Ars Goetia that King Solomon is said to have controlled. Each demon has a unique sigil, which the practitioner can use to summon and control the demon in ritual magic. The sigils are complex geometric designs that serve as a magical language. These designs are not arbitrary, but are constructed based on the names and attributes of the demons they represent. They are used in ceremonial magic and are often engraved on amulets, talismans, or ritual tools to harness their mystical properties. The practitioner typically uses the sigil as a focus for summoning the demon.
So I don't have to go too deep into it. I just wanted you to get that understanding. So that's that. Like, there's not everybody's using sigils for this purpose, but this purpose does exist, right? So now let's get into this a little bit. Now I'm just showing, I didn't think Joe would actually have this. So I was like, oh, I got to show you guys this. But yeah, Joe actually did show this one. And it's the wildest one that you could possibly see. Now, there's so many. All these are real. None of this is AI. This is just what pops up over time. I don't believe this is done by human beings at all. And if it is done by human beings, it's done by human beings that are putting out an intention to actually have something happen. I think they are using ritual. I think they are taking these sigils with the purpose of calling something in. And this could be the mark that the thing leaves when they've actually come into this world. Right. And I did an episode just recently with a demonologist, and he was talking about how, and it's his research is very interesting, has a lot of wild stories, I gotta be honest. And he was talking about how sigils were found on people. And this was done, he believes it was done by certain other people. It's a very interesting episode. He believes it was done by people who are disembodied, like demons, like spirits, that move from body to body over time, and they do it through ritual. So when their old body is about to pass, they pass their consciousness, spirit, soul into another body. And that, like Chucky. Remember the movie Chucky? Basically like that. They find someone, they say, you remember what Chucky was doing? And the clouds were swirling. Chucky's eyes are rolling back in his head because he's trying to get into the kid because he wanted to start a new life in the kid. He was older, he passed unexpectedly, so passed himself right into a doll, and then wanted to pass himself into Andy. I remember his name being, I think. Am I wrong about that? Now, this is another thing, just really quick. This is what I know I just said something so wild, and I'm just like, anyway, I know. But I'm just saying something like that. Someone with power to the extent of that. I know that believing in Christ is very powerful. Okay. I know that keeping Christ in your heart, making sure you're filled with the word of God, keeps other things away from you, negative entities, whatever you want to call it. I know that, but there's also people within that realm, that occult realm, that have been practicing for a long time, been doing it for a long, long time. And also, it's been around for a very long time. So let's just jump into this, though, really quick. I think this is what they were talking about. The thing that people weren't sure if it was real or it was fake. Now that I look at it, I've done I have a friend who's done a lot of graphic work, and it kind of looks fake to me. Like, just the way that it starts, the way that it moves over, and then it's giving an effect like it's almost peeling back. That makes me think that this one's fake, that nobody caught this really. And they said the footage ended up in the hands of people who were video effects people. I don't really buy this one, but the ones that do pop up, I bet they pop up something like this, like something is in another dimension and just blips into our dimension, smacks the ground like a meteor, and just leaves that kind of design. I bet you that's how it happens. I bet you it doesn't go bloop, bloop, bloop. I bet you it happens all at once. But let's go deeper into the rabbit hole. This is actually real as well. People think this is, and again, in the same place, this Wiltshire, England place. This came up June 8th, 2025. Like, this is an ongoing thing. I don't know who's mapping all this out or who's catching all of them, but I definitely want to talk to them at some point. Now, that's another one. This was 2025 as well. Somerset, England, wild one. Now let's get a little deeper into this. Check this out.
Here are some two-dimensional versions that seem to be revealing the torus in 3D.
So now what's happening here is somebody actually took the time to show the 3D representation of these crop circles. Now, this takes it to a whole other dimension, because you start to realize, oh, what we've been seeing has been the 2D representation of what they're actually trying to show. Like when I told you about the Merkaba is a 3D representation. The 2D representation, I don't know what it would be called. It'd be called like a tetrahedron or something like that. I forget what it's called. But they took the time to actually show this, which is very interesting. Now, this guy does a really cool breakdown. If anybody has seen this guy on Instagram or X, please tag him. Let him know that I'm trying to talk to him and trying to get a hold of him. Anyway, let's hear his breakdown. It's really cool.
Whether you believe these are real or faked actually does not matter at all. There is a much bigger problem with crop circles. Whoever is designing these has a geometric knowledge that is so deep it requires a multidisciplinary analysis from multiple fields of science to decode these things. Magnetic field, for example. They can also take the top view, rotate it on its side, and then give you that side view. They can show you what a bar magnet's magnetic field looks like, but you got to know that this is a 4-poled bar magnet to actually decode this. They've shown magnetic components like this motor and stator. They've taken very complex 3D geometry and flattened it down into a 2D representation of it. Some of them are even ancient spiritual concepts like the geometry of space-time, the geometry of consciousness, or the flower of life. At Stonehenge, they were able to execute a perfect Julia set fractal. Some show detailed celestial events like the lunar calendar and an 18-year lunar eclipse cycle. Molecular geometry of vitamin A. Easy work. Correct perspective and ternary code for CERN. Easy work.
I'll go right back to that one. That's wild. That's wild. And again, I know some people are like, well, that's just not real. It is real, actually. And it's wild how much it looks like this. So you see what I mean? Like, just imagine this movie script where there are these people and, you know, they have created something called CERN, and they have decided that they're gonna try and recreate the Big Bang. So they say, but in reality, they're trying to, before they even have CERN, they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get this thing? How do we make this thing? So they actually appeal to the occult realm. They're actually into the occult. They appeal to the occult realm like so many German and Russian American scientists before them. They appeal to the occult realm and they get the information, but also they get a sign. And they're not in that area, but then all of a sudden, boom, that shows up and it matches the visions. Just like that first guy Andy Thomas talked about, it matches their visions. And they go, okay, this must be the thing. And then they build CERN. You know what I mean? It's just, I know I'm going wild here, but I'm just saying it has to be, it can just, everything's possible, you know? And for that to be a real crop circle, and for this to be the thing that they built, and it's just so similar. I don't know, man. And you know those guys at CERN are into some stuff. They have to be into some stuff. The things that you see, the shows that they put on in front of the place, what they're trying to do within the place, they're into some stuff. They're not just Poindexters walking around with broken glasses like, I don't know, carry the 3. They're not just those guys.
Easy work. This one's a quantum particle mapped from 8 dimensions down to 2 dimensions. Now, these guys really got me into this. Now, these may look deceptively simple, but you don't just draw this shape. They're describing physics concepts from something called sympathetic vibratory physics. It is very specialized knowledge you really have to dig for, think like Tesla tech. Back in the alchemy days, they hid this in symbolic art, in cathedrals, in books, and it's even hidden in your head. That goes back to ancient Egypt. Now, there are absolutely fake ones, but I don't think anyone here is dumb enough to compare this to something like that. And there remains no adequate explanation for how the stalks get bent and exploded in the way that they do in the real crop circles. So if you can't even execute this on paper, you don't get to say that they're fake or not. It's very hard to deceive somebody with a lot of perspectives, and I'm here to give you all of them.
Yeah, great guy. Great breakdowns that guy does. So this is another one in Germany that apparently happened. This is from NBC News. Yeah, just to show you, like, the mainstream was even looking at this. And a bunch of people came and visited, obviously. They're trying to figure it out. Looks like these people even brought like a blanket. They're just hanging out. They're like, why not? A lot of energy around here for sure. And like that Andy Thomas guy said, there's a lot of people who report all of these weird symptoms. And you know what the symptoms are close to that they experience? The same type of symptoms that people report from either being in contact with UFOs or UAPs. The exact same type of things. Hands getting red, feeling very sick, loss of time, things of that nature, feeling just off, like weird energy things happening to them. They're experiencing the exact same thing when they're around these crop circles. That's why I think they might be acting as some kind of portal. And let's just hear Lou talk about this really quick. I know some people don't like Lou, but I had to play what he had to say here because it just made a lot of sense.
Demonic, and we should not be pursuing them. He was going with that, and I said, "Well, sir, I," and he said, "No, that's not what I'm saying." And he said, he asked me point blank, "Have you read?" I asked why, and he says, "Well, we already know what it is." Now, at that moment, I honestly thought maybe it was our own technology, and I was running up against some super uber secret sap, and they were telling me to stop. And I said, "Okay, sir, so it's ours." And he said, "No, that's not what I'm saying." And he said, he asked me point blank, "Have you read your Bible lately?" And I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that. And I said, "Well, sir, I think I know what it says. Where are you going with this?" And he said, "Well, then you would know that these things are demonic, and we should not be pursuing them." Yeah, and he wasn't kidding. That's exactly how he felt.
So this is a Pentagon. This is a Department of Defense official saying, "Stop looking at UFOs because they're demonic."
Correct.
Very interesting stuff. So don't look into them because they're demonic. Then we have to think about what Tucker Carlson was saying recently in the Sean Ryan podcast, where he was saying that there are dark forces playing on people and they're not from a far off place and they didn't just show up and they've been around us for a very long time. And then you gotta, if you're a watcher of the channel, you know that I'm showing you things from the 1200s where people are getting encounters that are giving them the same type of symptoms that we're hearing about when people interact with these crop circles of the red hands and the, like all the same symptoms. Very, very weird. Very weird stuff. Now let's just jump into this last clip where this gentleman talks a little bit more about this subject of UFOs being demonic.
But that was his conclusion. We're dealing with a phenomena that's operating in dimensions different than those of the universe.
What you just described is so fascinating to me as a Christian. Let me start there. As a Christian, I think of Ephesians 6. I think of the verses that we often don't talk about, even in the church, about this spiritual battle that is going on, that there's this unseen realm where this battle is unfolding, right? And I think about what you were just describing. I also have pondered as a journalist, I've often thought, okay, well, you have a situation where people are claiming that there are beings and there are spaceships and they're talking about them as though they're physical, and they will describe it in a way where these beings are so intelligent, they've been unable to be detected. They somehow crash, though. They're so intelligent, they crash and then they mysteriously disappear right away. And it just doesn't seem to add up. If you're so intelligent and so good at escaping, how did your aircraft crash consistently, right? And so what you're describing as these spiritual elements, I think it's really, really an interesting idea to think of it that way. And I think the question people would then naturally have for you, and I'd love to get your take on this, right? What exactly would you definitively say, and it seemed like you were saying this, that this is essentially the angelic and demonic realm, really the demonic realm that maybe we're dealing with here in a spiritual sense, not a literal alien flying around in space in the physical?
Well, back in the 1960s, the U.S. government commissioned the physicist Alan Hynek to investigate the UFO phenomena. And he was the one that came up with this term, close encounters of the first kind, second kind, and third kind. And what you notice in these, a close encounter of the first kind is where the human contactee is within 500 feet of the UFO phenomena. And when you're talking about the second kind, this is where they actually begin to experience some kind of physical harm. There have even been instances where people have been killed or their animals have been killed. And then there's instances where people claim to have direct communication with UFO beings. But what's interesting about these close encounters, it's never beneficial. It's always deleterious. The best you're going to come away from with one of these encounters is recurring, terrifying nightmares. Worst case scenario, you get killed. So they're harmful, but there's also evidence that there's deception involved in these encounters. Because when people claim to have had conversation with these UFO beings, they will claim, well, in fact, if you go back 100 years ago, they were saying they were from the backside of the moon. But when the public became educated enough to realize that's not credible, they changed their story and said, well, we're from Venus. And people realized how hot it is on the surface of Venus, they said they were from Mars. Well, now they're claiming to be from another planetary system. So the fact that they keep changing their story, and then you've got those cases where the human contactee goes into a trance, and then they begin to type out what the UFO being wants them to communicate. And
it sounds like automatic writing, by the way. That sounds very similar to what it is.
It's automatic writing, and it's extensive. I mean, probably the most dramatic example would be a big book, the Urantia book. It's kind of the Bible for all these UFO cults. And some editions run 4,000 pages. The entire book was communicated through automatic writing. But what's interesting about the Urantia book, about a third of its content denies the deity of Jesus Christ. So there, I think you can see the deceptive motivation behind this UFO phenomena. And in this book, Lights in the Sky and Little Green Men, we point out that we have a scientific testable model for this UFO phenomena. Because what you notice in these close encounters, it's exclusively experienced by people who have significant involvement in the occult. And when you remove that occult factor, that's the end of the UFO encounters. Increase the degree of occult, you increase the frequency of these UFO encounters. And as we document in this book, you notice there's a much higher incidence of these close encounters in nations where there's a high incidence of occult involvement. Examples would be France, equatorial Brazil, and I got to see this firsthand when I went to the Soviet Union when the communists were in control. And what I noted back then is that the Soviet Union was sponsoring occult physics research at their major universities. And so a lot of the physicists I was engaging at that time were deeply involved in the occult. Many of them were demon-possessed, and many of them were having these close encounters with UFOs. Now, when you go back to Russia, the incidence of that has dramatically dropped because the incidence of occult involvement has dramatically dropped. So I end this book by saying, close all the doors to occult involvement in your life and the life of your close relatives. That'll be the end of your UFO encounters. This is a testable model.
That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I mean, as a Christian, you kind of want to walk away from all that. That's how you repent. You repent and you go a different way. You apologize and then go a different way, a better way towards God. But I never heard of then the UFO encounters will stop. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. I want to interview that guy too. I don't know who that guy. I think his name was. I'll find his name. But interesting stuff, to say the least. I have. That's where my mind's going. The fact that there's this conversation that's being had about UFOs being very similar to demons. The fact that we're seeing the same type of symptoms in people when they're around crop circles as when they're around UFOs or UAPs. The fact that we're also seeing people, and I didn't know this before, but there are people who are actually doing some kind of ritual. Andy Thomas was talking about it, and actually, summoning a crop circle or trying to summon something, getting an image, and then a crop circle appearing. The fact that we know that sigils are a real thing and people really do use it. And some people are using it just to attract some good energy. Or they're attracting, whatever goal they're trying to have, or they're trying to force something onto their subconscious. Maybe even force something onto someone else's subconscious. Yes, there is that. But also, there are some people who are using it to actually communicate and bring demons forth through those sigils. Very, very interesting, man. And I do think, now that I know about all this, I do think there's a link to all that. I think that the crop circles that we're seeing are actually sigils, and they have a lot to do with the UFO contact that we've been seeing around the world. I think they're one and the same. I think people are summoning demons, and they are coming through these crop circles, or the circles are just a sign that they have arrived. Right? There's that as well. So very interesting stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it's either people or UFOs that do it. Now, after I've heard what AJ say and so many other people, and looked at the designs, I don't think people are doing this. If they are, they figured out some kind of magical way to do this that is not with their hands and feet. Or the UFOs are actually doing this. And when I say UFOs, I couple that with the term demons. I don't know, guys. I just wanted to take you on that ride because that's what I've been thinking about recently. That and I think there's something there. When I see a crop circle now, I think of sigils. And again, whoever's doing it has an incredible knowledge. Joe Rogan even said it in the clip. He's like, if someone's doing that, if it's a person, they have to have a lot of esoteric knowledge. It's like, and what he's talking about is the occult. That's what he's talking about. And I agree 100%. I think there's something going on with these sigils. And I think there's something going on with these crop circles that are sigils. And I think that they are calling demons through them. And we are confusing those with UFOs. The conversation around a lot of this stuff is that the people of yesteryear, hundreds and thousands of years ago, they were confused because they were so dumb, and we're so smart and we understand perfectly. I think it's the other way around. I think we're not only confused, but we're also being deceived, because if we knew for fact what I was saying was real, we would all be very alerted. We'd all be very alarmed. Anyway, just wanted to say that. Take it easy.